What's up, your boy? For another reaction, and today's video we have when football schools went on a deep March Madness run by Hobbs Sports or Hobo. No, they ain't Hobo. Hobbs Sports. Yeah, LSU. We a football school. Our basketball program suck, my nigga. I seen we got NC State coach. Every now and then we get players that be good. Like we had Cam Thomas, Ben Simmons. Like every now and then we get a player that be nice, but like we don't make it to the playoff though. We just get a nice player and he get drafted. Yeah.
Is either known as a football school, a basketball school, or a baseball school. Typically, the same schools are at the top of each sport year in and year out, like Alabama and Ohio State in football, Duke and UConn in basketball, and baseball sort of.
Yeah, LeBaron Philon did all the carrying against Michigan. Everybody else on Bama suck. That nigga needed Aiden Holloway.
Varies from year to year, but there are schools out there like Coastal Carolina and Southern Miss that are competitive enough and, more importantly, financially supported enough to compete at the highest level in college baseball, but not the other two main sports, making them known as a baseball school. Every now and then, we'll see a college that is
Damn.
more so known for its football success make its name known loud and proud during March Madness. Today we're going to look back at some times where football schools made deep runs in the NCAA tournament. And before we get started, two teams I am not going to include are Michigan and Florida. Obviously, both of these teams are big.
Florida not known for football no more. They fell off since 2008. The boys, they had what his name, Kadarius, Tony, Anthony Rich. They get good players and every now and then. When was the last time they made the playoffs? The Gators. Let's see. Michigan. Yeah, but Michigan still good. Michigan just won a national championship 2023, even though they cheated. You could say Michigan a football school, but they known for both. Both programs pretty good. That since 2014. But to be honest, can I even talk as a LSU fan game? They my rivals SCC game. We ain't been in the playoffs since 2019, our national championship year. So can I really talk?
Football programs, but they have been consistently really good in basketball for multiple decades. Seeing them make deep tournament runs is not nearly as obscure as the programs we're going to talk about in this video. Now that that's out of the way, let's get started. Why don't we start with the biggest name in all of college football, Alabama. Nate Oates was entering his fifth year as the head coach, and going into the 2023-24 season, Alabama was coming off a somewhat disappointing end to a really good season. Led by Brandon Miller, Alabama was the #1 overall seed going into the
Yeah,
NCAA tournament, but fell short to San Diego State,
that's
who
crazy. You could lose to anybody. Like, come on, San Diego State.
went on to play for the national championship. Miller obviously declared for the draft, but Alabama had some solid returning pieces from that team, including Mark Sears, Nick Pringle, and Rylan Griffin. The season didn't
Mark
get off to the best
Sears,
start
bro.
for Alabama as they finished the non-conference slate 8-5. But in their defense, they played one of the toughest non-conference slates in the country, facing Clemson, who was a solid squad out of the ACC, #4 Purdue, #8 Creighton, and #4 Arizona, losing all 4 of those games. The tough non-conference schedule paid off when it was time for conference play. Alabama finished 13-5 in SEC play, 21-10 overall, mostly thanks to its explosive and fast-paced offense. By the end of conference play, Alabama averaged 89 points per game. However, with how fast-paced Alabama played, they naturally gave up more points than most teams, and if they were not making their shots and taking care of the ball, losses got pretty ugly. After losing 102-88 in the SEC tournament quarterfinals against Florida, Alabama entered the NCAA tournament as a 4 seed. Alabama took care of business in the first round against Charleston, as it was a big night for Mark Sears. He dropped 30, and Alabama as a team shot 57% from 3. The second round game against Grand Canyon.
Yeah, Mark Sears was that nigga at Alabama. I don't need. Where is he at now? Is he in the G League or something? It's just he was too short. Bro was too short. MIL. Oh, he played for the Milwaukee G League. All right.
Saw the Tide win in complete opposite fashion. Grand Canyon controlled the pace of the game. They were a very slow-paced team, but Bama took advantage of this on defense.
Grand Canyon. What the hell?
They held Grand Canyon to 61 points and did not let them make anything. Most of Grand Canyon's points came from the charity strike as they shot 32% from the field and 10% from three. The Crimson Tide had somewhat of an off night offensively themselves, but after a late dunk by Pringle, Alabama was headed to the Sweet 16. The fast-paced play returned as North Carolina and Alabama both wanted to play up-tempo. This was a great game. Both offenses were really efficient, and this came down to the very end. Down by one with under a minute left, and one from Grant Nelson gave Alabama the lead. Alabama played great defense the next possession, and after Nelson made two more free throws, Alabama had knocked off the #1 seed and was headed to the Elite Eight, where it would be a rematch against Clemson. It was not a pretty start for Alabama, as Clemson got off to a double-digit lead in the first half, but once Alabama caught fire, they did not look back. The Tide shot 44% from downtown. Sears and Jaron Stevenson combined for 42, as Clemson just had no answer for the perimeter shooting. And I must say, considering the theme of this video, this matchup is hilarious. Alabama versus Clemson in a high-stakes basketball game? We've seen this matchup in football, I don't know, a million times. Literally two football schools going at it for a spot in the Final Four. You don't see that very often. Alabama played an almost perfect second half offensively. It's tough to lose when you score 54 points in the second half. Alabama was headed to the Final Four for the first time in program history. Unfortunately, the opponent in the Final Four was one of the greatest teams of all time. UConn was the defending national.
Yeah. Five. Stephon Castle. You know, I'm an LSU fan. The only two Alabama players I like, bro, is LeBaron Philon, because he was a hometown hero. Everybody love LeBaron and Devontae Smith, bro, because Devontae Smith from Louisiana. So those are the only two niggas I love that play for the Ops, because they're the Ops. I had zero LeBaron Philon, and I give his allowance to my mom.
Champions, and they slaughtered everybody on their way to the Final Four. It was a tough task for Alabama, but they stood 10 toes and gave the Huskies all they could. It was a close game up until about midway through the second half, as UConn was just too efficient and had too many weapons. Alabama had
that big ass center. That's why.
nothing to be ashamed of. The Huskies won 86-72 and went on to repeat as national champions. A great run for Alabama came to an end against a great team. This was certainly a massive milestone for Nate Oates and the Alabama basketball program. And it came at a really good time for Alabama fans, as this run occurred a few months after Nick Saban announced his retirement. Next up, we are going to stay put in the state of Alabama and talk about the 2019 Auburn Tigers. Now, I know what some of you were thinking. Why is Auburn in a video about football schools going on March Madness runs? And yes, while it is no secret that Auburn has been a joke in football the last 5 or 6 years, this used to not be the case. I'm sure a lot of people forgot, but Auburn was a...
Yeah, I know that it ain't used to be the case, but nigga, this was 10 plus years ago. Cam Newton, no, 10 some years ago, 12 some years ago. Niggas ain't been good since the 2000s, the early 2010s.
Pretty solid football program before the 2020s. Bruce Pearl was entering his 5th season as Auburn's head coach, and the Tigers had a good amount of hype going into the season. As the year before, they won the SEC regular season title, but some key late season injuries got in their way of making a deep run in the tournament. Auburn's biggest strength in 2019 was its consistent guard play, as Jared Harper and Bryce Brown were probably the best guard duo in the conference. Chuma Okeke was the most complete player on the team, as he could guard any position on the floor, he could rebound anything down low, and he could score in
I never heard them niggas. Any one of them niggas in the league now?
so many different ways. This ended up getting him drafted in the first round. It was a pretty hot and cold season for the Tigers, as they started 18-9 overall and 7-7 in SEC play, but ended the regular season on a 4-game win streak, including a win versus number 5 Tennessee, to finish 22-9 overall and 11-7 in the conference. Auburn carried its momentum into the SEC tournament, and after beating Missouri, South Carolina, and Florida, Auburn was set to face Tennessee in a rematch for the SEC championship, and Auburn embarrassed Tennessee. Brown and Okeke combined for 37, and with a final score of 84-64, Auburn won the SEC tournament.
Yeah, it's lit.
And earned a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. The first round against New Mexico State gave every Auburn fan across the country a heart attack. Auburn had a 3-possession lead with under a minute left and kept making the most boneheaded mistake.
Like, who live in New Mexico? One of them states you forget about, like you forget exist. Like,
that in most cases would lose them the game. New Mexico State hit some big-time shots down the stretch, and with a wide-open three at the buzzer, it was an air ball, and Auburn survived.
Yeah, that boy.
However, in the next round, Auburn was not playing any games, as they had Kansas beat before halftime. The Kansas Jayhawks would not be the last blue blood Auburn would take down, as the Tigers met North Carolina in the Sweet 16, and this game was a track meet. A very fast game of basketball, as both teams combined for 80 points by halftime. But Auburn came out on fire in the second half. The Tigers shot 46% from three, and the Tar Heels shot 25% from three. However, this win for Auburn would end up being very bittersweet, as in the second half, Okeke went down with a very serious injury, and yes, it was his ACL. Auburn would be without arguably its best player in the Elite Eight against a Kentucky team that had already beaten them twice in the regular season. It seemed as if Auburn was not going to be able to recover, as the first half was controlled by Kentucky. But in the second half, Harper and Brown were on fire. They combined for 50. And the entire team played really stout defense on everyone except PJ Washington. After a late stop under the basket, the game went into overtime.
Oh, that's him right there. That's him right there on Kentucky. That's him. 25.
And it was all Auburn. The Tigers outscored the Wildcats by 6 in overtime. And for the first time ever, Auburn was headed to the Final Four, and we all know how this ends. Auburn loses a controversial heartbreaker to Virginia that saw a missed late double dribble call and a foul at the buzzer that sent Kyle Guy to the line to win the game. A very brutal way to lose. But nonetheless, an incredible run for to win the game.
What the? What?
A very brutal.
Yeah, that nigga got a Bluetooth call, a Bluetooth foul, my nigga. What the?
Brutal way to lose. But nonetheless, an incredible run for Bruce Pearl and the Auburn Tigers. Also, the reason I'm talking about this Auburn Final Four run and not the 2025 run is because the Auburn athletic department was in completely different states during the two runs. During the 2019 run, Auburn basketball had not seen much success in recent memory, and the football program had been competing for championships. While the 2025 run was during a time where Pearl had established Auburn basketball as a steady program that had made plenty of noise in recent memory, and where the football program was an absolute disaster. Alright, next up is 2006 LSU, and this run came when LSU football was becoming a consistent national title contender, as this was 2 years after Nick Saban won his national championship at LSU, and 2 years before Les Miles would go on to win his national championship at LSU. John Brady was the Tigers head coach going into his 9th season, and he had taken LSU to the tournament 3 times, which was pretty good for Baton Rouge standards. The 2006 LSU team was a team led by young stars, starting with sophomore Glenn Davis, a.k.a. Big
Oh, yeah, Glenn Davis. Yeah, well, he did go to LSU.
Baby. Davis was a fan favorite not only with LSU fans, but college basketball fans around the country. His dominant play style and really good fundamentals made him one of the hardest players to stop. Freshman Tyrus Thomas was just an absolute freak of an athlete, one of the best defenders in the country. Thomas allowed LSU to reach a defensive ceiling that not a lot of teams could match. He averaged 3 blocks per game. On top of his highlight reel dunks and high-level rebounding, his 2006 season was enough to get him selected 4th overall in the draft. Tasman Mitchell was another young guy who was a really physical defender and rebounder, and that was LSU's identity in the 2006 season. They were one of the most physical teams in the country. Elite rim protection, strong perimeter defending, and defensive rebounding were the priority.
Them baggy jerseys, but just flying around
every night for this team. And as a result, most teams they played were held to points in the 50s and 60s. LSU gave up an average of 63 points per game by the end of the regular season. The Tigers finished 22-7 overall and 14-2 in SEC play to win the SEC regular season title. After falling to the eventual national champs, Florida, in the SEC tournament, LSU entered
Florida team was crazy.
The NCAA tournament
went back to back
as a 4 seed. A dominant second half against Iona in the first round advanced LSU to the second round against Texas A&M. And in a game the Tigers struggled offensively, they still played well defensively, and this game came down to the final seconds. Down by 2 with seconds left on the clock, Daryl Mitchell pulled it for the lead, and it was good! A&M was not able to get a shot off, and LSU was headed to the Sweet 16. The Tigers faced number 1 Duke, and this was an all-time defensive performance.
JJ Redick?
LSU held Duke to just 28% from the field. Player of the year J.J. Redick only scored 11 points and shot 3 of 18. Garrett Temple
Man, that
did
boy
not let
playing.
him breathe. Duke played well defensively as well, though, and just like the Texas A&M game, this one came down to the wire. But the final 3 minutes of the game were dominated by LSU. They outscored Duke 11-2, and with a final score of 62-54, LSU had shocked Duke and was moving on. The next opponent was LaMarcus Aldridge and number 2 seed Texas in the Elite Eight. It was another incredible defensive performance. Aldridge was held to just 4 points, and LSU held Texas to shooting 30% from the field. But just like Duke, Texas played really well defensively too. And both teams were held to 52 points through regulation.
I don't remember this. Nigga, this was what year this was. He said 2006. Nigga, I was probably 2 years old when this happened. Like 1 year old.
It was all
Yeah,
Tigers.
2006. This year I was born. Nigga, I don't remember this.
In overtime. Thomas and Davis made some big-time shots, and they combined for 47 of LSU's 70 total points. The buzzer sounded at the end of overtime, and for the first time since 1986, LSU was going to the Final Four. The defensive intensity continued in the Final Four against UCLA, but unfortunately, LSU did not have the best performance offensively. LSU's 2006 tournament run came to an end, but LSU had nothing to be ashamed of. An SEC regular season championship, knocking off the top 2 seeds in the region, and a Final Four appearance. What a great season. Now let's take the focus to Tallahassee, Florida, where similar to Auburn, Florida State has been an embarrassment in football as of late. But in the 2010s, the Seminoles were one of the best programs in the country. And the team on the court we're going to talk about is the 2018 team. Head coach Leonard Hamilton was in his 16th season as FSU's coach, and to be honest, they were a pretty average team. They won some, they lost some, but they were able to win enough games and beat enough quality teams to get into the NCAA tournament. There were no superstars on this Seminole team, but they had one of the deepest benches in the country, rotating 10 to 11 guys per game. And they were an athletic and tall core. The average height of the 11 players in the rotation was 6'7". Florida State went 11-1 in non-conference play, then 9-9 in ACC play to finish the regular season 20-10. The Noles got some pretty solid wins, including beating Florida on the road and North Carolina, Syracuse, and Clemson at home. After losing to Louisville in the ACC tournament, Florida State was given a 9 seed in the Big Dance and was set to play 8 seed Mizzou. It was an explosive first half for the Seminoles as they outscored the Tigers 42-20. Despite a push in the second half for Mizzou, it was not enough, and Florida State moved on to round 2 versus 1 seed Xavier. The Musketeers controlled most of the game, but down by 9 with 6 minutes left, Florida State began a push, and before you knew it, the Noles made it a 1-possession
Them niggas too big. Pause.
game, and Xavier could not stop turning the ball over, and Florida State took advantage of it. With just over a minute left, PJ Savoy for 3 and the lead, and he got it! Florida State held Xavier to 0 points in the final minute, and with that, Florida State had knocked off the number 1 seed and was headed to the
Where is that? What school is that? Xavier. Just Xavier. That's the name of the school. What the
Sweet 16. The Seminoles faced 4 seed Gonzaga, and this was an outstanding defensive outing. Florida State's size and athleticism really took over the game as Gonzaga was rattled from start to finish. 8 steals and 9 blocks for Florida State. Fiondu Kabengele had 4 blocks. Trent Forrest and CJ Walker both had 2 steals, and offensively, it was a solid night from Terrence Mann. 18 points, shooting 8 for 13 from the field. Florida State made it look easy and did something not a lot of people expected them to do. Advanced to the Elite Eight as a 9 seed. They met 3 seed Michigan, and both teams played really good defense the entire night. Michigan attempted to pull away late in the game after going on a big run to take a 10-point lead, but the Seminoles refused to give up. A Philip Kofer putback cut the lead to 2. After Duncan Robinson hit 2 free throws to extend the lead back to 4, and Savoy missed a shot with 11 seconds left, Florida State decided not to foul and to just let Michigan run the clock out. Why would they do that? They just gave up. Coach Hamilton was questioned as to why he did this, and here was his response.
Coach, take me through the final seconds of
God damn, that boy, no, he African. That boy look mad as hell.
this game. Why didn't you guys foul?
What are you talking about?
Down the stretch there, the end of the game, the final seconds, 11
What you talking about? Game. Why your players ain't foul, game?
seconds left on the clock.
Do you think that the game came down to the final seconds of the game?
I'm asking you, though, why that decision in the final seconds of the game?
The game was over.
You sound that stupid. You better off just walking off. I'd rather you just walk off from the interview than say that.
What do you mean the game was over? The game wasn't over. There were 10 seconds left. This is March Madness. We've seen the craziest shit ever in this tournament. You gotta keep trying until the buzzer sounds. No
Yeah.
disrespect to Leonard Hamilton, but that was one of the stupidest things I have ever heard. Anyways, man, besides how dumb the ending was, the run itself was really good. Getting to the Elite Eight was big time for Florida State. Last but not least, we're going to talk about arguably the second biggest name in college football, Ohio State. But instead of talking about a specific team, we're going to talk about a specific era, that being the Thad Matta era. Coach Matta was the head man in Columbus from 2004 to 2017, and he had the Buckeyes as a top basketball program for about 10 of those years. Ohio State was elite in football and basketball at the same time. That was so unfair. He won 20 games in his first season at Ohio State and the Big Ten regular season title in his second season. The Buckeyes had a ton of hype going into his third season as Matta recruited 3 5-stars who would go on to become first-round draft picks in the 2007 draft, and Greg Oden, Mike Conley, and Daquan Cook. The hype was real as
Yeah, that was a little stacked team.
Ohio State had one of its best seasons ever. The talented freshman led the Buckeyes to a Big Ten regular season and tournament title and a 30-3 record going into the NCAA tournament. Ohio State made it to the national championship game but fell to Florida, who was the defending national.
Greg Oden was different, bro, in college. That's why niggas always saying, how the hell did Kevin Durant go second overall?
Champs and was just more experienced.
How the hell did Greg Oden go over Kevin Durant?
The 2 seasons after 2007 were somewhat disappointing. The 08 team did not qualify for the tournament, and the 09 team was a first-round exit. Matta got things back on track in 2010. Led by Evan Turner, Ohio State once again won both the Big Ten regular season and tournament. A good season for Matta and the Buckeyes came to an end against Tennessee just narrowly in the Sweet 16. 2011 came, and man, they were good. Back-to-back years winning the Big Ten regular season and tournament, and earning the #1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament after finishing the regular season 32-2. But once again, Ohio State fell in the Sweet 16, this time to Kentucky. And look, I gotta say, I think Ohio State got screwed, not by the officials or anything, but by the damn selection committee. This Kentucky team, in my opinion, was too good to be a 4 seed. They should have been a 2 or a 3. They went on to lose to UConn, the eventual national champs, by only 1 point in the Final Four. Matta was due for another big run in March, and it came the following season in 2012. The Buckeyes entered the 2012 tournament as a 2 seed with a 27-7 record, and honestly just coasted to the Final Four. They got a pretty solid draw, unlike 2011. Ohio State faced Kansas in the Final Four, and this one was a punch in the gut for Buckeye fans. Ohio State led most of the game, but Kansas was the better team in the second half and down the stretch. The Buckeyes choked and fell short in the Final Four. 2013 saw a
See how the most stacked teams be losing?
Big Ten tournament title and an Elite Eight appearance, but unfortunately, this was the end of Matta's prime. After 2013, Matta did not lead Ohio State to the second weekend of the tournament for the rest of his time in Columbus. And after the 2017 season, he retired, citing health issues as to why he could not win and recruit at the level he used to. Matta did a tremendous job and had Ohio State competing for national championships in basketball, while Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer had them competing for national championships in football at the same time. I bet that era of Ohio State was so electric for the fans.
Yeah.
And with that, those are 5 instances of football schools making noise in March Madness. That is going to do it for this video. Those are certainly not the only football schools that have gone on deep March Madness runs, so I might make a part 2. Be sure to like.
Make sure to comment, subscribe, and I'm out. Deuces. Amazing video. Hobbs Sports. And this don't even have a lot of views. 3K views. Hopefully it's big viral.